we can't handle swings, and especially if you're retired and you're pulling money out, you can't handle as big of a swing. So you got to pump the brakes a little bit, but it's that Goldilocks. All right, you can't take as big as swings, but you want to be able to buy the same things at the grocery store. So you got to kind of keep your lifestyle maintained while not swinging for the fences.
Hello and welcome to Unf Your Finances podcast with your host, Nick St. George. I'm your podcast producer, RJ Malik. Nick, okay, so today what we have lined up is just a number of ways to unf your finances. The name of your podcast. You're going to really dive deep into it. So let's get started with how to unf your finances.
Yeah, easier said than done, but these are some of these war stories, if you will, of just what the you thinking? Like, hey, and a lot of times they're just smaller tweaks. And when you talk out loud about them, they're like, oh, I'd never do that. And then suddenly you look down and you're like, shit, I was doing that. So
yeah.
There's something said for learning from other people's mistakes.
Okay, let's go. Okay, then with the first one, and this one, my dad was guilty of this big time, especially with my sister, because she was the only girl. She's the only girl in the family, and he had a real soft spot for her, and it's lending money to grown children from retirement savings, and he was guilty of that.
And look, I have kids. I take a bullet for both of them twice. Well, maybe Bo, depending on the day. He's a little rage monster like me, but I want to do everything I can for my kids.
Right.
But they're not going to pay for your retirement in the back end. There's countless times and ways. They can take a loan. There's other ways you can help them. And you know what? Sometimes a little bit of failure is a good thing. I had a client years ago. She was giving $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a month to her 3 girls. And it wasn't on a retirement account, but it's still more, it's just the excessive, like sometimes you got to take the training wheels off. And I don't have training wheels from my parents. Like, it is what it is. Like, love them to death, but like, I can't fathom calling them up and asking them for money, or, hey, I need you to, but hey, you want to take care of your kids. You want them to have a better life than you did. Like, you want them to have not struggle, right? Like, but if it's coming out of your retirement account, they can take loans. They can learn. They can borrow from other ways. You can't borrow for retirement. And unless they're planning on paying you back, it's not a very good idea. Like, there's probably a handful of situations that might make a little bit of sense, but 99% of the time, it's just, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Not only taking money out of saving for retirement, it's a tax burden on you. There's so many different things. If you don't have money in outside savings, don't dip into retirement to help the kids. Like,
so what is the solution then? What do you recommend parents do?
Now, if you have savings, like, hey, you should have 4 to 6 months of emergency fund. If you want to give them some of your emergency fund and replenish that, that's great. If you don't have an emergency fund, all you have is your retirement, you got to say no. Like, it's not a warm and fuzzy thing. There isn't a magic pill. They don't want to hear it. And I know my daughter's lip would probably start quivering and be like, and like hoping she'll get the yes. But realistically, there are times in life you have to tell your kids no. And this is one of them. Your only side solution, dip into your savings, like your cash cushion, that sort of thing. Hey, you want to give up a vacation for the year and say, hey, I'm going to reallocate that money their way. But dipping into your retirement is a big, big red flag. Because think on the flip side, you go to retire in 10 years and you go, hey, remember, give me that 50 grand. Can I get on the comeback? And, oh wait, 10 years of growth. So that might be 100 grand now. Do you get 100 for me right now?
Right.
And if they were looking for money for you 5-10 years ago, are they going to really get you on the way back?
Right.
And you can't go to a bank being like, oh, I'd like to apply for a loan for retirement, please. Like, they can apply for a business loan. They can apply for a resident, like real estate, your mortgage, stuff like that. You can't apply for a retirement loan.
Okay. Very good. Then we'll go to the next step on this. Um, Looking at account balances too often. Now, I have to say, my wife and I, we balance ourselves very nicely. My wife looks at the balances too often, and I don't look at it enough. So she gets all worked up about it, and I don't worry about it until there's a problem. And then I go immediately to, okay, here's the solution. She's constantly worrying. So,
And somewhere there's Goldilocks that's just right in the middle, right? You guys yin and yang it out, but
yeah, yes.
um,
What is your advice to us?
yeah, and this really comes up a couple months ago. I figured out I can check, hey, who's using online, who set up online statements, and you see on rolling 30-day uses, and I have a couple clients north of 90 times
Wow.
in 30 days. In a past life, I covered a bank branch. You could see the bank app, and there's someone who was checking their checking account, rolling 30 days, somewhere in about 300 plus, 305, 310, like basically 10 times a day. And it's myopic. There's a fancy word, but at the end of the day, you're just creating unnecessary stress. If you looked at everything nanosecondly, you are going to crush yourself. And my best analogy for all this, you go plant a tree in the backyard, an oak tree in the backyard. Do you dig it up every 3 hours? Do you dig it up every other day? Not saying don't look at it, right? It's your money. You work hard for it. Like, try to look at it maybe quarterly. One of the bigger 401k providers out there, their study said if you check it more than 6 times a year, you underperform your peers. Basically saying that you keep checking it, you keep checking. Oh, I got to do something. I got to make a change. Like, no, like if life event changed, maybe that's a different story. But if you scare yourself into doing the hokey pokey from cash to investments back to cash and try to like, oh, I'm going to perfectly time it.
Right.
Like, it might work once, might work twice, but you can't repeatedly do it, or all the big money managers will happily hire you to be their next portfolio manager if you can do it.
Mm.
It's one of those things that check on it, know where you're at. Oh, that's okay. Like, it's one of those things that just you're scaring yourself into making a knee-jerk reaction that's you're going to regret later. And that knee-jerk reaction is one that someone else that's, oh, they think about it. A couple months ago now, we had the Chinese carry trade. Nobody really knew what that was. And in basically 10 days time, it went away. Now, if you're checking your stuff 3-4 times a day, you saw every little nanosecond of that, versus the person that checked it quarterly. Oh, there was something wrong? Like they might see the buzz headline for the day or two, but they didn't see, hey, man, that's a red number. Like, and
Okay.
it also goes back to even like the financial news. Like, oh, it's the worst day since August. And it's like these headlines, and now they throw up the big numbers. Oh, Dow's down 400, Dow's down 500, which 10 years ago was a massive number. Now, oh, that's 1%. Like, take a deep breath. Like, you're not putting a parachute on if you hit a little bit of turbulence. Like, they barely even tell you to put the seatbelt sign on, and you want to jump out at 30,000 feet.
So the thing is, you just have to be patient. And in a way, you were suggesting have a schedule to look at your account. Not every week, not every month, just quarterly, or every 4 months.
Yeah, pick do quarterly. Pick your number. Now, on the flip side, if you haven't looked at it over a year, go log into it, right? Take a peek and see where you're at.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't have to worry about that. My wife is looking at it.
Because if you don't look at it, I'm gonna jump us into the next one, is the not rebalancing. So let's say
Okay.
you're a 60-40 investor, right? Just your normal balance, 60% stock, 40% bonds.
Right.
Bonds are kind of, hey, well, they're there to pay interest. They're not going to be flashy, grow a lot. Stock market's done fairly well. So if you're 60-40, if that's your risk tolerance, if that's your goal, and you haven't looked at it and you don't have an advisor rebalancing you could suddenly be up to an 80-20 mix, which is a much more aggressive allocation.
Right.
Because if you're not looking at it and you don't have someone looking at it for you and adjusting it for you, you could go from a moderate investor to an aggressive growth investor, not because you did anything. It's just, hey, those grew. That's why you rebalance is to get you back into what your risk tolerance is, get you within the parameters. Once again, if you go from 60-40 to 63-37, are we going to go knock down the walls? But if you haven't looked at your account in 18 months, I bet you're probably out of your risk tolerance, just because of natural ebb and flow of stocks growing a little bit faster than bonds. Like that's, so if you haven't looked at your account in a while and you don't have an advisor, yeah, go log in, see where you're at.
And does your risk tolerance change as you age? Is that something that you have to take into account?
Of course. And risk tolerance, a lot of it is just, hey, we can't handle swings, especially if you're retired and you're pulling money out. You can't handle as big of a swing. So we got to pump the brakes a little bit, but it's that Goldilocks. All right, you can't take as big as swings, but you want to be able to buy the same things at the grocery store. So you got to kind of keep your lifestyle maintained while not swinging for the fences. You can't go put your money in the coffee can and say, I'm going to be okay, because think about it. In the last 2 years has made 3 years, inflation a very big word, right? But you go out anywhere, can you go and shop the same way you did?
No.
Can you? And that's the other thing. You don't want to get too aggressive, too risky. Have that happy medium, but like stay on track with what your goals are. Like some people, my allocation is not the same as yours, RJ, and that doesn't mean either one's wrong. But if we both set it and forget it for 2 years because we don't look at it, or you forget your password, our risk tolerances aren't going to be the same thing, or the portfolio won't reflect what we think our goals are and what our plan is. So that's why there's always two sides of every coin. You can look at it too much and scare yourself into a knee-jerk reaction, or you don't look at it enough and then you end up drifting into the abyss. So it is a little tricky. And I know it sounds like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but they're the extremes, right? You have too much, too little. Give me that Goldilocks. Let's go right down the middle. Let's go just right. And it gives you a better chance for the outcomes you're looking for. There's no guarantees or anything like that. This doesn't perfect everything, but at the end of the day, you want the highest probability of your success as possible.
All right. Got it. All right. Well, moving on to the next one, and that's comparing investments to friends and family. That's got to be just a big no-no.
I don't know what firm it is brother-in-law financial, like you always hear about the one or the coworker financial that just, they've never had a down month. They're like your degenerate gambling friend that's never lost money at the casino.
Yes.
But they get everything comped to them.
I programmed a sports station years ago, and my afternoon sports anchor would come in, and about every 2 or 3 months, he'd come in with a big wad of cash. And he'd show it off because every day he went to the casino. But it was just very rarely, and I picked up on this right away. And he would come in and he'd be showing off, he'd be fanning out the money and all that other good stuff. But it didn't happen every day. And I know he went every day. Oh, and a side note, he's in jail now. But that's a whole nother story. But go ahead.
That's for the Bernie Madoff episode, right?
Yes.
No, but it's true. Like now that we have online sportsbook and stuff, I keep a spreadsheet because I want to keep track of, did I really win? Like you have good weekends, you have bad weekends, but with finances, like what you need is different from everyone else. I don't go and be like, look at my prescriptions. Oh, how's that Lipitor treating you? I got the better Lipitor. Like you don't know why they're taking that medication, right?
Right.
You don't know. Hey, they might have had a good month, but they're trying to play catch up because they got waxed. Like you don't know the whole story. Worry about you. Like put the blinders on. That's why I really believe in having a plan. Are you on track for your goals? I don't give a shit about anyone else. You and I, let's go. This is what matters right now. And yes, I have lots of clients, but what their plan is and what our plan is together right here, right now. I'm not going to be like, hey, look at my buddy's account. No, they have different goals. They have different risk tolerances. They have their finances are different. Like, so you can't get in a pissing contest of prescriptions, stock market, gambling. Like it's not in it. And then there's nothing worse than like you hear, oh, well, they bought this and they expected to double in 3 months. I'm like, you and me both. I hope it goes up, but like,
So is it important for you to sort of have personal notes of each client so you can go back and say, hey, listen, this is the goals we set. We're not going to change them because you now decide, your friend is giving you a big tip or something like that.
oh, absolutely. That you gotta have notes. I have a pretty good memory, but it's still, hey, it's great to have notes. And hey, I know which ones I need to call when the market's really bad, right? I know which one when they call and they said, hey, I just happened to turn the TV on and they've had a certain cable news network on in the background for the last 10 years. Every time I've talked to them on the phone, they're usually my contrarian signal that it's hit the bottom of the crap when I get that call. But everyone's a little bit different. Do you want to get that call? Do you want to talk through it? And hey, you want to get more aggressive. Okay. You like the up. What will happen if we go to where you're talking? You got to understand this downside is in play. If you're still okay, I'm still your guy. If we lose this much, are you okay? And if it's a couple, usually one's like, the other one's like, right? Like, we got to keep you on the ride. We got to keep you on the plane. Whatever analogy it is, we can't hit the eject button. So that's why your stuff, your relationship with money, your plan, your goals, trump everything, your neighbor, coworker, whatever nonsense it is. Like, I'm not here for you to brag about at the water cooler at what you did last month in returns. I'm here for you to brag that you can retire when you want, as comfortably as you want, and you don't have to worry about it. And what your budget is for retirement, I don't care what theirs are. We're not here just chasing returns. We're plan driven, focused for your goals. That's it.
And that leads into the next topic you want to touch on, and that's emotional reactions to market movements. And I've got an example again. About 4 years ago, my wife was not happy with our investments, and she was not happy with our guy. And we talked about it, and I said, all right, let's, we went back and forth, and she gave her reasons, and they were valid reasons, but I said, all right, let's just wait a little bit. And just recently, after our last meeting with our finance guy, she looked at me and she said, I'm glad we didn't make the change. I'm glad, we waited and we waited things out. So, that's, when I saw this this topic was emotional reactions to market movements, it brought me back to that time.
Oh, absolutely. And I've gotten better in my career. I had some career limiting emails I've sent off early on in my career, or you go into a certain meeting when you probably should have walked away or gone for a lap outside the building. And if you can sit back, take a deep breath, pour a drink, whatever your poison is, take a walk, take the dog for a walk, collect your thoughts. Or one thing I've gotten better, I type the email. I don't always hit send. Like get that rage moment out.
Right.
Make a more I'm more self-aware. I'm a rage monster. I get angry. Like I still lob a grenade on a couple emails from time to time, but usually that's the third or fourth time I've typed it out and slept on it. All right. You woke up and chose violence. I'll play along. Here we go.
Yeah.
But same thing with investing though. If we have a bad week, bad month, it's part of it, right? The markets don't always go straight up. It looks like zigzag, right? It's kind of, if it went straight up, nobody would buy a bank CD or stuff like that and go super safe. Some people rather take the risk that their money doesn't grow enough to help them from the pain of seeing it fluctuate. And that is the trickier part in investing in the stock market and stuff like that, is that we actually have daily pricing. Versus if you actually get a daily report that you logged in that 90 times on your own house report, oh, your value of your house dropped by 10%. Oh man, pack it up. Let's go. Like it's a gift and a curse. We know what you're valued. Like there's a buyer and a seller. There's an efficient market. You can see the pricing daily for better or worse. That daily fluctuation on your house, your car, I don't know, your boat, whatever it might be, or your rental property, you don't get a flashing saying, hey, red or green, like CNBC doesn't rattle across the screen. Nick's house dropped by a $76,000 today in value. Like, and that's one of those tricky parts of being in the market. Like, and it goes back to that early one. Don't check it so often. If you're checking that one, you're going to feel that rage. You're going to get flushed. Money makes people do stupid things. And you're over there worried that we're going to make a change. We're going to do something.
Just let things play out the way they're playing out, and trust your financial advisor, trust your gut, right?
And don't get me wrong. You can have a discussion of, hey, I'm a little concerned. What are going on? It goes back to my weekly emails. I try to make them 3 or 4 bullet points. Like, you can basically almost read it just on your phone of, here are some of the headlines that are going around, right? Everyone wants to talk about the election right now. Everyone wants to talk about, hey, we got the storms, right? There's certain buzzwords. You can't get away from it. But tried to make it a more disciplined, informed, calm decision. Not always easy. Money makes people do crazy things. Nobody likes seeing their account go down. But if you can pause, take a step back, you'll thank yourself. Sleep on it. Heck, and that's why you have someone like me. You have that advisor. Hey, I'm a little worried. Hey, can we talk? You got a couple minutes to talk. How does this affect me? Right? At the end of the day, what's in it for me? How does that headline affect you? Hey, that is a horrible situation that you saw on the news. Painful to see, but we're still on track for your plan. This is what we're seeing. Heck, now with the portfolio, like, if there's momentum or economic factors, there's different things that go into it that will take risk off the table when we think things are going sideways. We're being more proactive in that aspect of things, of trying to, and it's not perfect, right? Like, the red light, green light, like, it may start flashing yellow and it may stay green. Who knows? But there's more than one way into all of this. And if you want to talk through it, that's what we're here for, right?
Excellent. All right. And if they want to talk to you, Nick, how do they get in touch with you?
All right. You get the website, stgeorgewealth.com. Email is nick@stgeorgewealth.com. Phone number is 828-481-8836. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And if you can't find me in the local area, and I stick out like a sore thumb, you'll find me at baseball fields or the cheer dad. I'm ROWDY on Saturday with my daughter. I think even our dog can do the cheer at this point.
Very good. That's a talented dog, that's for sure. Okay. Thank you, Nick. Appreciate it. And looking forward to your next podcast. And thank you for listening to today's Unf Your Finances podcast. Please like, follow, and share this podcast with friends and family. Until next time, I'm RJ Malik.
Thank you for listening to the Unf Your Finances podcast. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Visit our website at www.stgeorgewealth.com or give us a call at 828-481-8836. And don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of St. George Wealth Management. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA and SIPC.
Any guests in their company or companies are not affiliated or endorsed by LPL Financial unless otherwise stated. Individual tax and legal matters should be discussed with your tax or legal professional. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of the strategies. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of principal.